Imagine a mansion where 14 fireplaces glow beneath carved adobe ceilings, nestled in the heart of Texas hill country, where the air smells of cedar and saddle leather, where the king of country music unwinds, not in gold-plated glamour, but in handcrafted tradition. Yes, this is George Strait's private world. Today, we're stepping inside the gates. From his legendary estates in San Antonio and Prosper, to his million-dollar car collection, sky-high net worth, and the horses that still run free under the Texas sun. This is the timeless lifestyle of the cowboy who never left the saddle. Are you ready to ride? Before the platinum records, before the sold-out arenas, before anyone called him king, there was just a boy named George. Born in the tiny town of Poteet, Texas, George Strait grew up in Pearsall, surrounded by mesquite trees, dust trails, and the scent of feed from his family's 2,000-acre cattle ranch. His father, a math teacher by day and rancher by heart, raised George and his older brother Buddy after their mother left the family when George was in 4th grade. The land was tough. Life was tougher. George spent weekends mending fences, feeding livestock, and working under the unforgiving Texas sun. But amidst all that sweat and soil, something else took root. Music. At first he strayed toward rock. Picture a young George with a shaggy haircut, jamming Beatles tunes in a garage band called the Stoics. The British invasion had reached even the quiet corners of Texas. But the soul of the cowboy always pulls back home. And George's heart eventually drifted to the sounds of Hank Williams, Merle Haggard, and Lefty Frizzell. He didn't find country music. Country music found him. In college, he joined a struggling band called Stony Ridge, later renamed the Ace in the Hole Band. They played local gigs, honky-tonks, VFW halls, anywhere that would have them. No frills, just a fiddle, a steel guitar, and a voice that stopped people mid-drink. But Nashville wasn't listening. Label after label turned him down, saying his sound was too traditional. By the late 1970s, Strait nearly gave up, almost hung up the guitar. But it was Norma, his high school sweetheart and wife, who convinced him to try one last time. That one last time changed everything. In 1981, MCA Records gave him a shot. The result? A debut single called Unwound that hit number 6 on the country charts. The message was loud and clear. Traditional country was not dead. A tidal wave followed. Album after album, hit after hit. From Amarillo by Morning to Check Yes or No, George Strait became the sound of modern cowboy America. But he wasn't just a studio success. He turned the rodeo circuit into a stage. He packed stadiums. He built a fan base as loyal and proud as any the genre had ever seen. Then came the heartbreak. In 1986, his 13-year-old daughter Jennifer died in a car accident. George, devastated, withdrew from media. He stopped doing interviews, but he never stopped singing. He poured his grief into the music, and the music kept soaring. In 1992, he starred in Pure Country, a box office flop, but the soundtrack? His best-selling album ever. He wasn't acting in the film, he was just playing himself. By 2009, George Strait shattered Conway Twitty's record with 60 #1 hits, more than any artist in history, in any genre. And when he announced his final tour, it ended with 104,793 fans at AT&T Stadium, the biggest indoor concert in North American history. A cowboy rode in. A legend rode out. But even as the crowds faded, George never left his roots. He didn't move to Beverly Hills. He didn't build some futuristic compound in Miami. George Strait went home. To the rolling hills of San Antonio. To wide skies, quiet mornings, and a home that feels like a song. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Ranch in Texas. Perched atop a gentle slope in the heart of Texas hill country, George Strait's San Antonio mansion isn't flashy. It's timeless. Crafted in warm, rustic adobe and designed by the late Bill Tull, an architect known for his soulful southwestern aesthetic. This home is a masterpiece of detail, a place where every corner whispers comfort and every wall feels lived in. Let's walk inside. The property stretches across 12 scenic acres, with hilltop views that roll into the horizon. At the entrance, hand-carved wooden gates open to a winding driveway flanked by native grasses and crepe myrtles. The air is still, peaceful. You can almost hear the crunch of boots on gravel. And then, the house reveals itself. A sprawling adobe estate of nearly 8,000 square feet, wrapped in soft earth tones and kissed by the Texas sun. It's not screaming for attention, it's inviting you in. The front door opens to a dramatic foyer where hand-plastered walls and archways lead into a great room with vaulted ceilings made from massive wood beams. But what catches your eye first are the fireplaces. Not one, not two, but 14, each uniquely crafted in Southwestern style, each telling its own quiet story. In the living room, oversized windows frame the hills like oil paintings. The fireplace here is built with hand-laid stone, and the room glows gold in the late afternoon light. To the left, a gourmet kitchen that blends rustic charm with modern functionality. Hand-painted tile backsplash, custom wood cabinetry, commercial-grade appliances. It's a kitchen where George might have sipped his morning coffee while watching deer cross the lawn. Now, down the hall. The primary suite is a retreat of its own. Wooden shutters open to a private veranda. There's a massive fireplace at the foot of the bed, a cozy sitting area, and a spa-style ensuite with a deep soaking tub framed by arched windows. And that's just the beginning. This estate includes a private gym with state-of-the-art equipment and a built-in sauna, a safe room for added security, a dedicated office where Strait handled both music and ranching business, multiple guest suites, each with its own design personality. But we haven't stepped outside yet. Out back, the world opens up. A resort-style infinity pool seems to spill over the edge of the hillside, blurring the line between earth and sky. Beside it, a hot tub spa steams under the stars. There's an outdoor kitchen, complete with a grill, ice maker, and rustic wood cabinetry, where George hosted friends, family, and fellow musicians for long summer nights filled with music and mesquite smoke. And for those staying the weekend, there's a separate guest casita, a full suite with its own fireplace, kitchenette, and private patio. It offers all the luxury of the main home, but with enough distance to feel like its own world. All of it, wrapped in silence, solitude, and the scent of cedar and sage. This is not a mansion built for show. It's a home built for rest, for reflection, for a man who lived his life in front of millions, but always came back to the quiet. At one point, this property was listed for just under $10 million. But how do you price peace? How do you appraise a view that heals? For George Strait, this was more than a house. It was a pause, a place where the boots came off, the guitar leaned against the wall, and the world slowed down. But as serene as this sanctuary may be, there's another property, even grander, that takes Texas luxury to a whole new level. Let's head north to Prosper, Texas, where Strait's second home reveals just how big the legend really is. Mansion in Prosper, Texas. If his San Antonio estate is where George Strait retreats to reconnect with silence, then his Prosper, Texas mansion is where he lets the world know he's still the king. Sitting on nearly 6 expansive acres, this $6 million property isn't just a house. It's a full-fledged Texan kingdom. From the moment you arrive, the grandeur is unmistakable. The entrance greets you with twin floating staircases rising into a vast open foyer bathed in natural light. Marble floors stretch from wall to wall, polished to a mirror shine. Look up. Soaring double-height ceilings frame an elegant chandelier that seems to levitate in air. This isn't just architecture, it's orchestration. Every room flows like a melody, from formal spaces that whisper luxury to hidden corners that scream fun. Because here's where George Strait blends Southern comfort with Vegas-level opulence. Let's start with the entertainment wing. It features a 2-lane bowling alley with customized lighting and polished wood lanes, a private movie theater outfitted with velvet recliners and Dolby surround sound, an indoor basketball court, full-sized, beneath a skylit dome, a spa complex with both dry and wet saunas, a state-of-the-art gym, because even cowboys like to keep their edge. Feeling tired? There's a full-service barbershop. Yes, really, so you can freshen up before dinner. And speaking of dinner, the chef's kitchen comes with commercial appliances, a center island big enough to host a Super Bowl party, and direct access to multiple dining areas, both indoor and al fresco. Let's wander toward the primary suite. It's not a bedroom. It's an apartment within a palace. Inside, there's a private fireplace, a built-in coffee bar, and his and her bathrooms dressed in stone, wood, and soft lighting. The crown jewel? A custom-built 2-story walk-in closet, a staggering 3,000 square feet. Glass pathways connect levels. There's integrated lighting for each shelf, and a lounge area to sit and choose which pair of boots fits the mood. And if George didn't want to walk far to his ride, there's a garage entrance directly connected to the suite. Outside, this estate continues to impress. There's a 14-car garage, including 2 oversized bays large enough to store yachts, RVs, or tour buses. There's a full outdoor kitchen, a resort-style pool, and even a man-made lake, stocked with fish and bordered by a private dock. Imagine George casting a line as the sun dips low. Just another quiet moment in a life filled with roaring crowds. At night, the entire estate transforms into a soft-lit wonderland. Path lights guide you through stone walkways. Uplighting in the trees makes the branches glow like cathedral arches. It's a world that feels like George himself, rooted in Texas, refined in spirit. But here's the thing. As breathtaking as this prosperous estate is, it's not the why behind George Strait's legend. The true measure of his journey? It lies in what he drives, what he earns, what he gives away, and most of all, how he lives when no one is looking. Let's head to the open road next, where horsepower and heart meet under one Stetson. What does a man who's sold over 100 million records, shattered every chart in country music, and filled stadiums across America choose to drive when the cameras aren't rolling? Not always what you'd expect. George Strait's car collection isn't about flashing wealth, it's about purpose, comfort, and a bit of old-school cowboy cool. Each vehicle tells its own story, some built for the road, some for the ranch, and others just for the ride. Let's take a look inside his garage. Cars. Chevrolet Corvette Stingray, C7. Sleek, sharp, and unmistakably American. The Corvette Stingray is George's nod to performance. With its long hood, aggressive front grille, and low-slung stance, this car is built for open roads and adrenaline. Picture George pulling out of his prosperous estate at dawn, windows down, the engine purring like a wildcat beneath him. It's not every day you see a cowboy in a sports car, but when you do, you remember it. He doesn't just drive this car, he commands it. Chevrolet Silverado. This one's a given. The Silverado is the rancher's best friend, reliable, rugged, and ready for anything. George has likely owned multiple over the years, using them for cattle runs, hauling gear, or just driving out to the back of the property with his boots on the dash. It's not for show, it's for work. And work, to George Strait, has never gone out of style. Chevrolet Suburban. Big family, long road trip. The Suburban is the cowboy limo, spacious, powerful, and practically a living room on wheels. It's the vehicle George might use for cross-state drives with Norma, Bubba, and the grandkids. With leather seats, rear entertainment systems, and smooth suspension, it turns Texas highways into silk. It's comfort, without compromise. Bentley Continental GT convertible. Now this one surprises people. Yes, George Strait owns a Bentley. Not just any Bentley, a Continental GT convertible, finished in classic deep navy with saddle brown leather interior. It's elegant, refined, and a little rebellious. It's easy to imagine George cruising through the Texas hill country with the top down, Sinatra on the radio, and his Stetson tilted just right. Not because he needs to impress anyone, but because every legend deserves a little luxury. Across his collection, one thing is clear. George doesn't just collect horsepower. He chooses machines that reflect the man. Understated, purpose-driven, and every now and then, a little bit wild. Now that we've seen what carries him across the land, let's talk about the fortune that built it all. Because behind every saddle and steering wheel, there's a trail of gold that tells its own story. $300 million. That's the estimated net worth of George Strait. But unlike many celebrities, he didn't chase it. He built it slowly, song by song, show by show, acre by acre. Let's rewind to where the money trail begins. In 1981, when Strait signed with MCA Records, no one expected his first single, Unwound, to set the tone for a multi-decade empire. But it did. The album Strait Country sold steadily, and soon, album sales became his first river of gold. He didn't just sell records. He sold over 100 million of them. Each hit added fuel to the fire. Oceanfront property, check yes or no, I cross my heart. Each tour pulled in millions more. And then came Pure Country. Though the 1992 film flopped, the soundtrack became his best-selling album ever, going multi-platinum and raking in millions in royalties. By the 2000s, George was headlining sold-out tours that rivaled rock legends. In 2014, his farewell tour, The Cowboy Rides Away, broke records with a final show at a T&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Over 104,000 tickets sold. That single concert alone grossed more than $18 million. But Strait's income didn't stop with music. He inked endorsement deals with trusted American brands like Wrangler and Tractor Supply Company, brands that fit his cowboy persona like a glove. He invested in ranch land, real estate, and co-founded the luxury Tapatio Springs Hill Country Resort, a golf getaway nestled in the scenic Texas hills. His name alone elevated the resort into a go-to destination for both country fans and travelers seeking rustic luxury. Then there's his private jet, a Gulfstream G450 worth over $40 million. But even that's not just flash, it's function. A tool for hopping between concert dates and charity galas with ease. George Strait isn't the kind of man who flaunts wealth with diamond watches or gold-plated pools. His millions go into land, livestock, legacy. Because for George, true wealth means being able to protect what matters most: his family, his ranch, and his roots. But part of that protection also means giving back to those who need it most. And in the next chapter, we'll see how George Strait uses his fortune not just to live well, but to lift others in a way only a cowboy could. Philanthropy. The spotlight may have made him a star, but it's what George Strait does in the quiet that makes him unforgettable. His philanthropy isn't loud. It doesn't come with hashtags or press conferences. It comes from something deeper: loss, loyalty, and a love for those who serve. The Jennifer Strait Memorial Foundation. In 1986, George and Norma lost their 13-year-old daughter, Jennifer, in a tragic car accident. It was the kind of heartbreak that splits a life into two halves, before and after. But instead of letting grief harden him, George transformed it into something enduring. He founded the Jennifer Strait Memorial Foundation, now known as the Jennifer Strait Foundation. Its mission? To support children's charities, particularly in the San Antonio area. Over the years, the foundation has helped provide medical care, education, and emotional support for kids in need, turning personal tragedy into collective healing. Because some angels wear boots. Homes for Heroes, Military Warriors Support Foundation. George Strait has always had deep respect for those who wear the uniform. And through his partnership with the Military Warrior Support Foundation, he's helped donate mortgage-free homes to wounded veterans and Gold Star families. At his concerts, he doesn't just sing for them. He brings them on stage, honors them in front of thousands, and makes the arena fall silent in gratitude. It's not about applause. It's about reminding everyone what real sacrifice looks like. Vaqueros del Mar, Cowboys of the Sea. Alongside longtime friend and business partner Tom Cusick, George co-founded the Vaqueros del Mar Invitational, a golf tournament and concert series held annually at his own Tapatio Springs resort. It's not just a fundraiser, it's a movement. Since its founding, the event has raised over $5 million for Troops First Foundation, which provides housing, rehab, and emotional recovery for wounded service members. It's golf, it's music, it's healing, under Texas skies. Disaster relief and community support. In 2017, when Hurricane Harvey devastated the Texas coast, George Strait didn't watch from afar. He joined forces with Governor Greg Abbott to lead fundraising and relief operations. Later, in Bourne, Texas, he hosted a special gala called Straight to the Heart, raising $6.2 million in a single evening to help flood victims across the Hill Country. And he didn't stop there. He's supported groups like Music Cares, ACM Lifting Lives, and the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, always choosing causes that give people not just hope, but dignity. A cowboy's code of honor. Why does he do it? Maybe it's the way he was raised, on hard land, by a father who believed in sweat, honesty, and community. Maybe it's the years spent touring, meeting fans with scars of their own. Maybe it's because he knows that fame fades, but kindness doesn't. George Strait gives not for headlines, but because that's what a cowboy does. And while his records may sit on shelves, his generosity lives in homes, in hospital rooms, in heartbeats. Now, as the guitars quiet down and the charity galas fade into candlelight, what does the king of country do when he's not performing, not giving, not traveling? He lives, and the way he lives today just might be the most beautiful chapter of all, personal life. So what does the king of country do on an ordinary Tuesday? The answer is simple. He rides. George Strait has never been a man of Hollywood mansions or red carpet drama. Even at the height of his fame, his heart remained tethered to the land, his family, and the rhythm of ordinary days. At home on his sprawling Texas ranch, George starts his mornings with fresh air, strong coffee, and the company of his horses. There's something in the way he moves among them. Gentle, steady, familiar. These aren't showpieces. They're partners, each with a name, a purpose, and a story. He still rides, some days alone, some days alongside his son George Bubba Strait Jr., a rodeo competitor and horseman in his own right. Sometimes his grandson, George Harvey Strait III, joins them too. 3 generations riding side by side across land that carries their name. It's not for show, it's for connection, for peace. George and Norma, his high school sweetheart and wife of over 5 decades, have kept their love strong through quiet loyalty, not through headlines or extravagance. They travel occasionally, often keeping it close to Texas. Golf trips, visits to their Tapatio Springs resort, or sometimes just dinners with lifelong friends under a Texas sky full of stars. George also flies his private Gulfstream G450 jet, not to chase luxury, but to make the journey home faster. Because for him, home is the prize. He's not a social media butterfly. You won't find daily Instagram posts or TikTok dances. Instead, George Strait's life today revolves around the things that always grounded him: family, land, music, when it calls. He still records, occasionally performs, but only when it feels right. No pressure, no spotlight chasing. Just music made for love, not for noise. And when he's not in the studio or the saddle, you'll likely find him at the ranch, sitting on a weathered porch, boots crossed, hat low, watching the sun slide behind a stand of oaks. That's the George Strait most never get to see. Not the star, not the millionaire. Just a man who never stopped being Texan. And as we approach the final stretch of our journey, one question lingers in the warm hill country breeze. What does it really mean to be king, if not for the fans, the fame, or the fortune? There's a special kind of silence that falls over the Texas hill country at dusk. It's not empty, it's earned. And if you listen closely, you might hear it echo through the adobe walls of a San Antonio mansion, or across the lake behind a palace in Prosper. It's the sound of a man who's done it all, and yet never strayed from where he began. George Strait is more than the king of country. He's a rancher who once chased cattle before chasing number. One hit. A father who turned grief into hope for other families. A husband who stayed married through the storms of fame. A legend who still rides horses more often than limos. He made history in boots. He built wealth with humility. And he gave it all back without asking for applause. Because for George Strait, the most sacred things have always been the ones money can't buy. Land, loyalty, legacy. And maybe that's the real story here. That success doesn't have to mean selling out. That fame doesn't have to erase your roots. That you can be crowned a king and still be a cowboy. So the next time you hear a George Strait song, whether it's on a jukebox, in your truck, or beneath the stars, remember, it came from a place that's real. From a life still unfolding quietly in the hills of Texas, a life between stage lights and saddle dust. If this journey into George Strait's timeless lifestyle moved you, if you found yourself lost in the mansions, the music, the memories, don't ride off just yet. Hit that like button, subscribe for more legendary lives, and share this with someone who still believes in boots, ballads, and the beauty of living true. Because sometimes the greatest stories are the ones that start at home.